As I log in into Apromore, I'll see my workspace where event logs and process models are organized in folders according to my project needs. For example, here I've created a folder to collect files related to my incident management project. The quickest way to start is by manually uploading an event log of an assist process, for example, in CSV format. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to upload a CSV file of my incident management process. As I do that, Apromore is going to show me an excerpt of that file so that I can tag each attribute with its meaning. For example, the incident number is the case identifier. Then I make sure that all the mandatory attributes are there, such as a reference to the activity, the start and end timestamp of when each activity instance has been performed. And then at that stage, I'm pretty much ready to go. But here, as you can see, this log exhibits other attributes, such as the user that performed the activity or their role. In short, the more attributes I've got, the richer the analysis I'll be able to do. So once I'm ready to upload, I can give a name to that log, and then once I press OK, that file is going to pop up in my project folder, ready for me to analyze. At this stage, I can carry out two different types of analysis. I can launch a dashboard to look at this process on an aggregate statistical level, or, as I'm going to do right now, I can double-click to automatically reverse engineer the process map and carry out an analysis at the flow level. In this particular module of Apromore, I can analyze my process along three key dimensions: the structure, the performance, and the compliance. As far as the structure is concerned, I can see what are the various tasks that are performed, what are the transitions between them, and then I can overlay different statistics related to the frequency, such as the number of cases. So the darker the blue color, the more frequently a given task has been observed, the thicker the arc, the more frequently a transition has been taken between two consecutive tasks. So this particular analysis of the structure allows me to understand what are the activities, in what order they are performed, by whom, and whether there is any rework, repetition, or exceptional passages. E.g., here I can observe a ping-pong effect between approved incident and pending vendor. And I can play with these abstraction sliders to expose or hide more or less detail in my process. For example, if I drop down both sliders to 0%, I'll be able to single out the main path this process follows for managing incidents. So another dimension of analysis is performance. In this case, I need to switch overlay between frequencies to durations. For example, I can choose an average duration to quickly identify activities that constitute a bottleneck, as well as activities that constitute a resource capacity bottleneck, meaning I do not have enough people to perform that particular activity, like a proof incident in my example, and as a result, I've got long waiting time, meaning cases queue up at the doorstep of that activity waiting for a resource to become available to perform it. And I can also quickly replay the historical data of my event log on top of the process map that I've automatically discovered from the log in order to be able to see the formation, evolution, and disappearance of bottlenecks. Here I can see that a bottleneck is pretty much building up around this ping-pong effect between approved incident and pending vendor. Last, I can analyze my process from a compliance perspective. And specifically, I can identify SLA violations. I can identify violations of flow constraints, as well as violation of resource principles, like a segregation of duties between the person who approved the solution and the person who implemented the solution. And to do that, I can use quick keyboard shortcuts to apply one or more filters. For example, I can control and right click to retain 340 cases where a solution has been implemented, and a simple right click to get rid of all those where the solution was first approved. And I'm left with 18 cases that are non-compliant because a solution was implemented despite it not being approved. Likewise, I can quickly check for an SLA constraint by applying a case duration filter, e.g., if my incidents should be processed within a 3-week time frame, I can remove all the cases that took up to 3 weeks to single out those, in this case 92, that are non-compliant because they took too long. At any point in time, I can switch the perspective to other viewpoints, such as I can look at the resources, effectively discovering the social network of interactions between the users that have performed the various activities, or the roles of the processes, the stages, the systems, and so on. I can also switch the view to a BPMN model and save that BPMN model back to my repository, and also ask Apromore to automatically discover the simulation parameters. So if I go back to my project folder, now I'll see that a new file, a BPMN model, has popped up. I can double click on that to start modifying this process model through the embedded editor. E.g., I can define manual tasks, I can evolve these models, I can modify version control and publish it to other users within the organization. But most importantly, Apromore has discovered all the simulation parameters for me to simulate the assist process, such as the arrival time, the distribution of durations for the various tasks, the resource and their capacities. So I can use this as a starting point, as a baseline to simulate the assist, but I can also make changes to the flow as well as to the simulation parameters in order to assess the impact of various what-if scenarios, that is, the impact of different interventions aimed at improving this process, e.g. automating a slow activity with a bot. Last, I can also analyze my log by launching a dashboard. Apromore comes with a wealth of out-of-the-box indicators, charts, and tables. For example, the work in progress shows me the volume of cases across the log time frame, which is needed for demand forecast. But I can also create custom dashboards and template them so I can reuse them from one project to the other. E.g., here I'm firing up a KPI center that I've created specifically for my incident management process. And when I do that, I'll be able to see in a snapshot all the key performance and compliance indicators that are relevant for an incident manager, such as key performance indicators at each stage of the process, from registration through to closure, as well as key indicators related to compliance violations in this process, e.g. an SLA violation at 3 weeks. Here I can see that only 13% of cases, my threshold being 20%, took over 3 weeks to be completed. Or I can see that there are indeed 18 solutions that were implemented without approval, or 197 cases where a segregation of duty between the person who implemented and that who approved the solution was violated. And there's indeed a wealth of indicators that you can create, customize, and then of course, once you build these templates, you can share them with fellow process stakeholders within your organization.